Yeah. Okay.
Uhuru.
Uhuru.
I said Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Uhuru means freedom in Swahili. My name is Fofi, and I am a lifetime member of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. We have a wonderful Sunday rally every Sunday from 3 to 5 p.m. And we're so glad that you are here to join us. And I welcome Chairman Momali Esatella.
Uhuru.
Our comrade Penny Hess.
Uhuru.
Everybody. Uhuru. This Sunday rally is led by the African People's Socialist Party. The International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement is the mass organization founded in 1991 that is the leading organization in the struggle for bread, peace, and Black power in the 21st century. Now join us. Join us, for today is a very special Sunday rally. We will be doing the reenactment of the Uhuru trial, the trial of the century. It is a 3-part episode. Today we'll be watching part 1, just to give you an idea for those that were not there of what went on and how the state looked like before. Okay? But first we're going to start off with our African national song, National African Nation song, written by our own Ethia Ngoma. Please stand, and the words will be on the in front of you.
Shout Uhuru for our freedom. We are winning. We'll dance songs and revolutions won. We are winning. Africa's best daughters and sons. We are winning. For you and me, we are winning. Won't survive till we are free. We are winning. African workers, we must unite. We are winning. Against white power, the parasite. We are winning. Long live and I'm true. We remember the struggle with you. We are winning. From Harlem to Brazil to Tanzania. We are winning. We fight and live on a free Africa. We are winning. Long live the liberation of our African nation. Freedom through organization. Socialist world, our creation. 1 billion strong, yes, we are one. We are winning. Patrice Lumumba's life won't be in vain. We are winning. Keep up the work in Marcus Garvey's name. We are winning. Independent and free is what we will be. We are winning. Africa will bask in our victory. We are winning. Long live the liberation of our African nation. Freedom through organization. Socialist world, our creation. 1 billion strong, yes, we are one. We
Uhuru!
Uhuru.
All right, comrade, we are winning. All right. Let's play video.
This is the FBI. You have a federal warrant for this address. Keep your hands up and follow orders. This is the FBI. We have a warrant for this.
They handcuffed me and my wife out here. They wanted me to sit on the curb while they were carrying this out, something that I refused to do. They wanted my wife to sit on the curb out here, that she refused to do.
As I was coming out, this big old drone met me.
The only revolutionary organization that's done something here on the ground practically for African people is the one that's come under attack. Institution that offers a community radio station, a newspaper, a commercial kitchen, an Aquaba Hall rental space, and community office for our organizers. That was the building that has come under attack.
You need a breach? What do you need? Need one. I don't know. I'll tell Ben the money. Don't take it. We will build a movement of white people that says hands
Yes.
off the Uhuru
Yes.
movement.
They see in the African People's Socialist Party a vanguard for the struggle for the liberation of our people. They see that because not just what we do here in the United States, but because we had the temerity to do like Garvey, to do like Malcolm X, and take the struggle of black people around the world.
Uhuru. Comrade, this is how we got to where we are today. They took the first step. We're gonna take the last. Uhuru, start the video.
I'm Talmadge, and we're going to talk to you through the story of the Uhuru 3's anti-colonial free speech trial of the century.
And before we begin the reenactment, I need you to let you know that the Uhuru 3 were found not guilty of acting as agents of the Russian government. In a contradictory and unjust verdict, they were found guilty of conspiring to act as agents of the Russian government. And I'll let you know my name is Mariah, and they will return to the Tampa Federal Courthouse on December 16 for their sentencing hearing. The government plans to lock up our 83-year-old chairman, Amali, Penny Hess, and Jesse Neville for 5 years and to fine them $250,000.
We say not one day in prison. All freedom-loving people are encouraged to attend the sentencing hearing to show your support for the Uhuru 3. You can be part of history. Learn more at handsoffuhuru.org.
So back to the beginning of this precedent-setting case, on July 29, 2022, the FBI conducted violent military pre-dawn raids on 7 homes and offices of the Uhuru Black Freedom Movement, including that of its founder and leader, Chairman Amali Yeshitela. Employing tanks, drones, flashbang grenades, and battering rams, flak-jacketed soldiers trained laser-guided automatic weapons on the bodies of then 81-year-old Chairman Amali and his wife, Anna Zane Yeshitela, as they emerged from their front door in an impoverished Black neighborhood in North St. Louis. No arrests were made, but $40,000 in damage was done to the 7 properties, and the FBI seized all of the occupants' computers, phones, hard drives, and boxes of files.
9 months later, on April 18, 2023, the Uhuru 3 chairman Amali Yeshitela and the 2 leaders of the Uhuru movement's White Solidarity and Reparations component, Penny Hess and Jesse Neville, were indicted on 2 baseless charges of acting as unregistered agents of the Russian government and conspiring to act as unregistered agents of the Russian government. They reported for arraignment May 2023. They were put into leg irons, retained in holding cells, had their passports taken, and were released on bond. They are now required to report weekly to pretrial monitoring officers and to get permission from the government before traveling across state lines.
In September of 2024, the week-long trial of the Uhuru 3 was held in Tampa Federal Court. The court was packed with supporters from around the U.S. and across the political spectrum. The trial was assigned to the courthouse's largest courtroom, which quickly filled up and observers spilled into a designated overflow room.
Burning Spur Media is proud to present a 3-part reenactment of the historic Uhuru 3 anti-colonial free speech trial of the century, where the government's conspiracy to gut the First Amendment was revealed.
In today's episode 1, we'll read excerpts from the indictment and the pretrial motions, and we'll bring you into the courtroom for jury selection and the judge's initial instructions to the jury.
In episode 2, we'll present excerpts from the opening arguments in the case and reenact the examination and cross-examination of key government witnesses.
And in the final episode 3, we'll take you back inside the courtroom to see what the jury actually saw as the Uhuru 3 attorneys presented their evidence. We'll also reenact excerpts from the closing arguments, jury instructions, the verdict, and even hear Chairman Amali's response to that verdict.
We'll begin with the so-called Department of Justice press release issued on April 18, 2023, the day the indictment came down.
U.S. citizens and Russian intelligence officers charged with conspiring to use U.S. citizens as illegal agents of the Russian government. Defendants sought to sow discord, spread pro-Russia propaganda, and interfere in elections within the United States. A federal grand jury in Tampa, Florida, returned a superseding indictment charging 4 U.S. citizens and 3 Russian nationals with working on behalf of the Russian government and in conjunction with the Russian Federal Security Service, the FSB, to conduct a multi-year foreign malign influence campaign in the United States. Among other conduct, the superseding indictment alleges that the Russian defendants recruited, funded, and directed U.S. political groups to act as unregistered illegal agents of the Russian government and sow discord and spread pro-Russia propaganda. The indicted intelligence officers in particular participated in covertly funding and directing candidates for local office within the United States. Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service allegedly weaponized our First Amendment rights, freedoms Russia denies its own citizens, to divide Americans and interfere in elections in the United States, said Assistant Attorney General Matthew G. Olson of the Justice Department's National Security Division. Efforts by the Russian government to secretly influence U.S. elections will not be tolerated, said Assistant Attorney General Kenneth A. Polite Jr. of the Justice Department's Criminal Division. As today's announcement demonstrates, the Criminal Division is committed to eradicating foreign malign influence from the U.S. political system and helping ensure the integrity of our elections. Among other illegal activities, the superseding indictment alleges that Ionov, Sudakolov, and Popov conspired to directly and substantially influence democratic elections in the United States by clandestinely funding and directing the political campaign of a particular candidate for local office in St. Petersburg, Florida in 2019. As part of the campaign, Ionov allegedly recruited members of political groups within the United States, including the following indicted defendants: Amalia Shatella, Penny Joanne Hess, Jesse Neville.
The DOJ concludes their press release with a disingenuous disclaimer that reads, an indictment and a complaint are merely an allegation. All defendants are presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law.
You see that? From the beginning, they bring this false accusation that the campaign of a Uhuru movement member running for local office in St. Petersburg, Florida, was directed and funded by Russian government.
And then you'll hear the government's main witness, lead investigator, FBI agent Kelly Bowen, on the stand under oath admit that they had no evidence whatsoever to show any election interference in those election campaigns of the Uhuru movement.
Yes, we'll hear that testimony during episode 2 of the reenactment when we get to the examination and cross-examination of the government's witnesses.
So next, we'll look at the actual indictment, which can be reviewed in full on handsoffUhuru.org.
The grand jury charges count 1. Point 1, from at least as early as October of 2013, Alexander Viktorovich Ionov worked with officers of the Federal Security Service of the Russian Federation, the FSB, to use members of various U.S. political groups as foreign agents of Russia within the United States, without prior notification to the Attorney General. Working under FSB supervision and with FSB support, Ionov recruited members of these political groups within the United States and other countries, including Ukraine, Spain, the United Kingdom, and Ireland, to attend conferences in Russia. These conferences were sponsored by the anti-globalization movement of Russia and funded by the Russian government. At these conferences, Ionov entered in a partnership with certain U.S. separatist groups who were advocating for separation from the authority of the United States, including groups from Florida and California. Thereafter, Ionov exercised direction or control over these groups on behalf of the FSB. Ionov also monitored and regularly reported on their activities to the FSB. Point 2, specifically, Ionov provided financial support to these groups on behalf of the FSB, directed these groups to publish pro-Russian propaganda, as well as other information designed to cause dissension in the United States and to promote secessionist ideologies, coordinated and funded action by these groups within the United States that was designed to further Russian interests, and coordinated coverage of these groups' activities in Russian media outlets. Point 3, among Ionov's many illegal activities as an action of the FSB were his efforts in conjunction with Moscow-based FSB officers, Sukadolov, Popov, and other FSB officers, to interfere directly and substantially in democratic elections in the United States by clandestinely funding and directing the political campaign of a particular candidate. Specifically, and as set forth in more detail below, Popov, Sukadolov, and other FSB officers supervised Ionov's efforts to actively direct the campaign of a candidate for local political office in St. Petersburg, Florida in 2019, with Popov expressly referring to this effort on behalf of the FSB as, quote, our election campaign. Point 4, Ionov and Popov intended that this election interference plot extend beyond the 2019 election cycle in St. Petersburg, Florida.
So again, this focus on this lie about Russian election interference and a local electoral candidate fielded by the Uhuru movement in St. Petersburg, Florida. In episode 2, you'll hear directly from the court's own transcript, the words of the government's lead witness, FBI agent Kelly Bowen, admitting that the government has no evidence on such interference and that there appears to have been no interference by the Russian government into the Uhuru movement's electoral campaigns, something that the government knew when they issued the indictment and their intentionally inaccurate press releases. So the indictment goes on.
The conspiracy. Beginning on an unknown date, but at least as early as in or around November of 2014, and continuing until on or about July 29th, 2022, in the Middle District of Florida, Russia, and elsewhere, the defendants did knowingly and willfully combine, conspire, and agree with each other and other persons known and unknown to the grand jury to commit an offense against the United States. That is, to act as an agent of a foreign government and foreign officials, to wit, the Russian Federation and officials of that government, without prior notification to the Attorney General, as required by law in violation of 18 U.S.C. Section 951A. The overt acts in furtherance of the conspiracy and to effect the objects thereof, at least one of the co-conspirators committed or caused to be committed the following overt acts, among others, in the Middle District of Florida and elsewhere.
Let me explain for the layman. An overt act is defined as an act performed by any member of the contrived conspiracy, which is done for the purpose of furthering or carrying out the ultimate intent of the agreement, or which would naturally accomplish the objective of the conspiracy.
Okay, Talmadge, but in the case of the Uhuru 3, the object of the alleged conspiracy is to sow discord on behalf of the Russian government, under its direction and control. So the indictment goes on to list what the Department of Justice calls the overt acts of their bogus conspiracy, which we'll summarize here.
2015, Chairman Amalia Yeshitela travels to Moscow, Russia at the invitation of non-governmental organizations and returns to Moscow a few months later to speak at a conference titled The Dialogue of Nations. 2015, the Uhuru movement publishes a petition charging the United States with genocide and gathering over 130,000 signatures. In 2016, the Uhuru movement conducts a poor city reparation emancipation tour to organize community testimony to the United Nations fact-finding tour led by Moray, Falcone, daughter of the iconic African revolutionary Franz Falcone, that resulted in the UN's first ever call for reparations to African people. In 2016, the Burning Spear newspaper publishes an article opposing the ban of Russian athletes in the Olympics. In 2017, Jesse Neville runs for mayor of St. Petersburg, Florida, mayor on reparations platform. 2018, Penny Hess is indicted recipient of a Facebook message from Russian person about Human Rights Committee. In 2019, an unnamed, unindicted so-called co-conspirator runs for city council in St. Petersburg, Florida on a reparations platform. In 2020, Chairman Amalia Yeshitela speaks via Zoom at another Dialogue of Nations conference and issues a video statement congratulating the Donetsk People's Republic on its 6th anniversary. And in 2020, the African People's Socialist Party makes a public statement holding the US and NATO responsible for Russia's defensive action in Ukraine.
So tell me, it's like, as we can see here, everything the Uhuru movement is actually accused of should enjoy full First Amendment protections of the free speech, freedom of association, and freedom of the press. There was no accusation of spying, violence, bribery, money laundering, drugs, kidnapping, weapons, or any such activity. Only speech, dissenting opinion that criticized the U.S. government's policies and actions. This the first time these laws have ever been used against U.S. citizens for speech and opinion alone. This case sets a dangerous case law precedent for government repression of journalists, activists, and all citizens' rights to express dissenting opinions.
So that was count one, the conspiracy charge that carries a maximum sentence of 5 years in prison. Now back to the indictment for the foundational charge without which a conviction on conspiracy should not be possible.
Count 2. Point 1. The allegations set forth in paragraphs 1 through 23 of Section A of Count 1 of this superseding indictment are re-alleged and incorporated by reference herein. Point 2. Beginning on an unknown date, but at least as early as in or around November of 2014, and continuing until on or about July 29th, 2022, in the Middle District of Florida and elsewhere, the defendants, Amalia Yeshitela, aka Joseph Waller, Penny Joanne Hess, and Jesse Neville, aka Jesse Novelski, aided and abetted by each other and by other persons, known and unknown to the grand jury, did knowingly act within the United States as an agent of a foreign government and foreign officials, to wit, the Russian Federation and officials of that government, without prior notification to the Attorney General, as required by law, in violation of 18 U.S.C. Section 951A and 2, signed by Roger B. Handberg, United States Attorney.
All right, y'all. Now that was count 2, the foundational charge that carries a maximum 10 years in prison. Now let's look at it again. To knowingly act within the United States as an agent of a foreign government and foreign officials, to wit, the Russian Federation and officials of that government without prior notification to the Attorney General.
This foundational charge must have a guilty verdict in order to form a basis for the conviction on count 1, the conspiracy charge. But as you'll hear, misled by the government, the jury will return a contradictory verdict that acquits on one charge while convicting on another.
So beginning in February of 2023, attorneys filed a series of requests and appeals under the Freedom of Information Act on behalf of the Uhuru Three. They sought to expose a pattern of U.S. government surveillance and harassment of Uhuru movement organizers as part of the ongoing U.S. government counterinsurgency program to quash the African liberation movement.
In theory, Freedom of Information Act requests allow the public to access government records and documents that are not already available to the public. The stated goal of the FOIA system is to keep the government accountable to its citizens. In practice, the government withholds or redacts information at will.
The Freedom of Information Act request for Jesse Neville, it was denied, citing Exemption 7A, which allows the government to withhold requested records compiled for law enforcement purposes that would interfere with enforcement proceedings. Although government entities are statutorily required to respond to FOIA requests within 20 working days, more than 1 year later, the government has yet to reply to those requests made on behalf of Chairman Amala Yushatella and Penny Hess.
And on July 17th, 2023, the Uhuru Three attorneys filed a motion to dismiss the indictment. The motion to dismiss was filed by Penny Hess's attorney, Leonard Goodman, and was subsequently adopted on behalf of the other two members of the Uhuru Three, Chairman Amali Shatella and Jesse Neville. The motion is much too extensive to read in its entirety, and we encourage viewers to read the document in full. It's posted at handsoffuhuru.org in the About section. But when we return from a short break, we'll read sections from the Uhuru Three's motion to dismiss.
Uhuru, Uhuru. My name is Soliana Bakel, and I am the managing editor of the Burning Spear newspaper, and I really hope that you're enjoying this program as much as I am. I want to salute our chairman, Amalia Shatella, who is the founder of the Burning Spear and who today faces 5 years in prison for speaking out on behalf of the African nation. And salute to Deputy Chair Ona Zanea Shatella, whose tireless work as architect of the Black Power Blueprint is turning the chairman's vision of African self-determination into reality. If you've been following the news of the Uhuru Three anti-colonial free speech trial of the century, your best source of information has been the Burning Spear newspaper, theburningspear.com, the website, and the Burning Spear TV channel on YouTube. The current issue of the Burning Spear newspaper is entirely dedicated to a report and analysis of the trial of the Uhuru Three, as you can see on this beautiful cover that our layout team has put together. As you'll see in the final episode of this reenactment, much of the evidence presented by the Uhuru Three attorneys showing the consistent worldview and a steadfast commitment to African self-determination and independent agency came from the decades of reporting and editorial positions printed in the Burning Spear newspaper. Again, the oldest African liberation journal and continuous publication since the Black Power movement of the 1960s. So before we return to today's performance, we want to call on you to support this beacon of honest information, proudly biased in favor of and told from the perspective of the African working class and other colonized peoples around the world. Don't let the FBI tell you what you can read, think, or say. Help others to get access to the publications that the FBI does not want us to see. So founded in 1969, the Burning Spear newspaper is the oldest African liberation journal in continuous publication, like I said, since the 1969 specifically. The official journal of the African People's Socialist Party, the Spear newspaper serves to unify and liberate the African nation forcibly dispersed by colonialism worldwide. Over the decades, the Burning Spear newspaper has served as the voice of the international African revolution. You can become a distributor of the Burning Spear newspaper. And let's make this newspaper that the government is so afraid of. They're spending millions of dollars to lock up its founder. Let's make it available to the people on the streets and in the neighborhoods of every city in this country. You can bring the Spear into a new city, or you can join up with comrades who are already selling the Spear in your city. I want to share with you some of the places where freedom-loving people are actively distributing the Spear. So in the Midwest, we're in Chicago and St. Louis. In the Northeast, we're in Philly, New York, Staten Island, and Boston. Across Florida, we're in St. Pete, Gainesville, Fort Myers, Punta Gorda, Orlando. In Cali, we're in Oakland Bay Area, LA, and San Diego. In the Pacific Northwest, we're in Tacoma and Olympia, Washington. So you too can take a stand and support the right of African people to freedom of speech, freedom of association, and freedom of the press. We have a goal during this program to sign up 20 new distributors of the Burning Spear newspaper. I invite you to place an order for a bundle of burning spears right now at theburningspear.store. You can order a bundle of 25, 50, or 100, and you can go big or order 100 spears and get them into the hands of the people in your community who are looking for the information and analysis that will free African people and create a world of peace, justice, and happiness for everyone. You can place a one-time order or place a recurring order so that you'll automatically receive your bundle of spears each month. Once again, don't let the government shut down this historic voice of liberation. So back to you, Mariah, Talmadge, and the Burning Spear Media Readers Theater Troupe. Uhuru.
Oh, wow. What a powerful, powerful, powerful piece of media, Celiana. Thank you there. And thank you, comrade. I hope everyone watching really orders a bundle or bundles of that Burning Spear newspaper. So next, we bring you selections from the Uhuru 3's motion to dismiss. All right, we have that motion to dismiss here on the screen. Our comrade Penny,
Yes,
comrade Diane.
yes, I'll go ahead. Motion to dismiss. Defendant Penny Hess, by her attorneys Leonard C. Goodman and Angela J. Rainey, pursuant to Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 12b2 and the First Amendment to the United States Constitution, hereby moves this honorable court to dismiss the indictment. In support of this motion, defendant states as follows.
The African People's Socialist Party, or APSP, was founded in 1972 by defendant Omali Yeshitela. The party's platform can be found on its website, apspuhuru.org. The APSP supports the rights of African people throughout the world to be free from colonialism, described as a condition of existence where a whole people is oppressively dominated by a foreign and alien state power for the purpose of economic exploitation and political advantage.
The APSP believes that all Black people are African people and are part of a single national entity. It believes that the vast resources of Africa belong to the African people and not to Western colonizers.
It also advocates free speech and political association, a guarantee of the right to work for the betterment and emancipation of Black people without fear of political imprisonment and the loss of life, limb, and livelihood.
The APSP oversees a broader network of organizations and programs which collectively comprise the overall Uhuru movement. The APSP publishes its own newspaper called The Burning Spear. Its Uhuru House Community Center in St. Petersburg houses a radio station operated by a nonprofit organization affiliated with the broader Uhuru movement.
During its half-century of existence, the APSP has consistently championed several issues. First, it seeks reparations, just economic compensation for the, quote, theft of human and material resources from Africa and its people, and for the centuries of genocide, oppression, and enslavement of our people, unquote.
Second, it opposes U.S. and Western European political, economic, and military interference in the affairs of Africa and African people throughout the world. Third, the APSP and Uhuru movement oversee programs that support the economic development and well-being of African people. This includes 3 centers in the United States, in St. Louis, Missouri, in St. Petersburg, Florida, and in Oakland, California. Through these centers, Uhuru-affiliated organizations operate farmers markets, recreation programs, and training programs for African women to become doulas. The Uhuru movement also operates several businesses, including Uhuru Foods and Pies and Uhuru Furniture and Collectibles.
As part of its advocacy on behalf of African peoples, the APSP chairman and other party members regularly travel to foreign countries and participate in conferences.
In 1981, the chairman attended the Managua Conference in solidarity with the FSLN government of Nicaragua.
In 1983, the chairman went to Belfast, Northern Ireland, to speak.
In 2002, the chairman was the keynote speaker at the 8th Congress of the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania in Umtata, South Africa.
In 2004, the chairman spoke at the Global African Conference in Suriname that resolved to demand reparations.
In 2006, the chairman traveled to Southern Africa and met with former Namibian President Sam Nujoma.
In 2007, the chairman was the keynote speaker at a conference in Huelva, Spain, sponsored by a Spanish NGO.
In 2012, the chairman spoke on the legacy of Marcus Garvey in London, Paris, Berlin, Brussels, and Stockholm.
In 2015, he also spoke at a conference in Jamaica.
In 2019, the chairman traveled to Oxford Union to participate in a debate on African unity.
In 2015, APSP chairman made 2 trips to Moscow to attend conferences arranged by defendant Ionov and his group called the Anti-Globalization Movement of Russia, the AGMR.
Contrary to the allegations in the indictment, the APSP did not conceal the party's associations with Russia and Russians. Rather, the APSP described its trips to Moscow in the Burning Spear, the same way it described its other trips.
Section 951 is unconstitutional as applied to Ms. Hess and the other APSP defendants. The indictment in this case directly targets political expression, a core First Amendment right. The government here is prosecuting the APSP defendants under 18 U.S.C. Section 951, a statute that criminalizes unregistered foreign agents operating in the United States. To be an agent of a foreign government under Section 951, a person must, quote, agree to operate subject to foreign direction and control, unquote.
Here, the APSP defendants are not charged with helping Russia to achieve any particular action item in the United States, such as gaining extradition of a wanted dissident, freeing a prisoner, or obtaining relief from sanctions, nor are they charged with espionage or fraud. This case is about pure political speech and the right to advocate dissenting views. The overt acts charged in the indictment all relate to political speech and peaceable assembly. The APSP defendants are accused of speaking at conferences, peaceable rallies, and at multi-city speaking tours. They are accused of publishing articles in their own newspaper.
The indictment attempts to criminalize speeches in which defendants criticize NATO expansion eastward to Russia's border. The 2014 US-backed coup to remove Ukraine's Russia-friendly president and replace him with a US-EU puppet regime, and US policy to arm Ukraine to the teeth. Every one of these charged offenses are protected political speech under the First Amendment. None of the targeted speech of the APSP defendants was in itself unlawful or had any tendency to incite imminent lawless action, nor did it contain any obscenity which might fall outside First Amendment protections. Rather, the indictment here targets only protected speech.
The government here is using Section 951 to prosecute members of an activist group for political speech and activism in opposition to U.S. foreign policy. In so doing, this prosecution strikes at the heart of the First Amendment. It must be noted that the APSP defendants have a well-documented history of opposing U.S. efforts to interfere in other countries that predates Yeshitela's visit to Moscow by at least 4 decades. Thus, the suggestion in the indictment that the APSP defendants were speaking for Russia when they blamed the United States for provoking Russia into invading Ukraine is plainly untrue on its face.
Even a quick perusal of the archives of the APSP newspaper, The Burning Spear, and their published speeches shows example after example of the APSP's opposition to NATO expansion and US interference in Ukraine. In a 1982 Burning Spear article, the APSP described NATO as a Western military alliance designed to dominate the colonized peoples of the world.
In April 2014, more than a year before the APSP chairman's trip to Moscow, it published an article in the Burning Spear called, quote, Ukraine, Russia, EU, US, and the Crisis of Imperialism, unquote. This article criticized US interference in Ukraine and US involvement in a coup that overthrew democratically elected President Viktor Yanukovych and installed a US-EU puppet regime. In this article, the APSP sides with Russia in its struggle to prevent Ukraine from becoming aligned with NATO and the West.
The indictment does not allege that the APSP defendants ever agreed to advocate any position that did not align with their ideology. The government cannot remove constitutional protection from political speech by labeling it propaganda and disinformation. The government does not have monopoly on determining what is true and what is false. The fact that the APSP defendants are accused of opposing official government policy on an important matter of war and peace does not justify an exception to the rule.
Moreover, the views of these defendants that the government calls propaganda and disinformation are nearly identical to the views held by well-renowned public intellectuals such as Professors Jeffrey Sachs of Columbia University and John Mearsheimer of the University of Chicago.
In May 2023, Professor Sachs wrote a column for Common Dreams called "The War in Ukraine Was Provoked and Why That Matters to Achieve Peace." Herein, Sachs argued that the US provoked Russia's invasion first by its intention to expand NATO to Ukraine and Georgia in order to surround Russia in the Black Sea region by NATO countries, and second, by helping to install a Russophobic regime in Ukraine by the violent overthrow of Ukraine's pro-Russian president, Viktor Yanukovych, in February 2014.
In March 2022, Professor Mearsheimer wrote a column for The Economist called John Mearsheimer on Why the West is Principally Responsible for the Ukrainian Crisis, in which he argued that the West, and especially America, is principally responsible for the crisis in Ukraine, which began in February 2014.
Professor Sachs was an advisor to 3 United Nations Secretary Generals and is the author of several books on foreign policy and economics. Professor Mearsheimer is the author of numerous books on security issues and international politics. No one has suggested that the published opinions of Professor Sachs and Mearsheimer are not protected speech.
This case would appear to be the first time in which a Section 951 prosecution has been challenged on First Amendment grounds, quite likely because it is the first case in which the government has used Section 951 to directly target political speech. The superseding indictment must be dismissed as to Ms. Hess and the other APSP defendants to avoid the chilling effect upon the exercise of First Amendment rights that may derive from the fact of this prosecution. Dismissal of the indictment as to Ms. Hess and the other APSP defendants is necessary not only to protect the First Amendment rights of these defendants, but also to protect the rights of other Americans whose speech may be inhibited if this prosecution is permitted to go forward.
In this case, the government is using Section 951 in a discriminatory manner to target a particular group that merits its displeasure. It has been widely reported that more than a dozen prominent Washington research groups, also known as think tanks, have received tens of millions of dollars from foreign governments in recent years while pushing United States government officials to adopt policies that often reflect the donor's priorities. None of these prominent DC think tanks that receive millions of dollars from foreign governments are ever prosecuted under Section 951 as unregistered foreign agents.
Yet members of the APSP, a small group of Black activists who allegedly received about $7,000 to support speaking tours, are prosecuted under Section 951 for their disfavored speech. For all these reasons, dismissal of the superseding indictment is required as to the APSP defendants.
Okay, Diane and Indigo, thank you for that read there. And I know that this is available after the motion to dismiss on the handsoffyahoo.org, and just seeing it and just having you explain it to us is just thank you there. Thank you. And from my understanding, the government prosecutors then filed a response to the Uhuru 3's motion to dismiss.
Okay, let's hear some excerpts from the government's prosecutor's response to the Uhuru 3's motion to dismiss the bogus indictment, which is also available to read in full on handsoffyahoo.org's website. You got to take note of the government's definition of disinformation that they try to codify into federal case law.
And also the government's stated intent to nullify the First Amendment protections with unsubstantiated claims of national security threats.
Section 951 does not violate the First Amendment because, to the extent that it incidentally affects speech, it is a content-neutral statute that is narrowly drawn to serve a substantial national security interest. In this context, the term disinformation does not refer to information that is necessarily false. Rather, it refers to Russian intelligence's long-standing employment of influence operations utilized by the Russian government to, among other things, seek to create wedges that reduce trust and confidence in democratic processes, degrade democratization efforts, weaken U.S. partnerships with European allies, undermine Western sanctions, encourage anti-U.S. and anti-Western political views, and counter efforts to bring Ukraine and other former Soviet states into European and international institutions. In 2015, Ionov directed Hess to draft a petition on genocide of African people in the US. In 2017, Neville ran for political office in St. Petersburg. Ionov offered to assist the campaign, including through campaign finance. In 2019, the APSP's Director of Agitation and Propaganda, unindicted co-conspirator number 4, ran for local political office in St. Petersburg, Florida. Ionov reported on this campaign to the FSB, telling them that he had donated $450 to the campaign and participated in other fundraising events. And he provided statistics to them concerning the campaign's successes.
Hey, spoiler alert, during the Uhuru 3 trial, the FBI's star witness and lead investigator, Kelly Bowen, admitted on the stand under oath that there was no evidence of any Russian interference in the local electoral campaign of Jesse Neville or that of the so-called unindicted co-conspirator number 4.
Yeah, but the government keeps pushing these lies that the Uhuru 3 had conspired with the Russian Federation to facilitate electoral interference. So the government's response to opposing the Uhuru 3's motion to dismiss continues on.
Section 951 makes it a crime for an individual other than an officially recognized diplomatic or consular officer to act in the United States as an agent of a foreign government without prior notification to the Attorney General. The statute defines an agent of a foreign government as an individual who agrees to operate within the United States, subject to the direction or control of a foreign government or official.
Listen to this next part. It sounds like we're back in the Red Scare days.
As the Supreme Court has recognized in the context of a statute requiring organizations controlled by the, quote, world communist movement, unquote, to register with the Attorney General. These types of national security interests lie at the heart of American sovereignty. Means for effective resistance against foreign incursion, whether in the form of organizations which function in some technical sense as agents of a foreign power, or in the form of organizations which, by complete dedication and obedience to foreign directives make themselves the instruments of a foreign power may not be denied to the national legislature. In rejecting a First Amendment challenge to an onerous registration requirement for organizations controlled by the, quote, world communist movement, unquote, the court explained, where the mask of anonymity serves the double purpose of protecting a group from popular prejudice and of enabling them to cover over a foreign dictated conspiracy, infiltrate into other groups, and enlist the support of persons who would not, if the truth were revealed, lend their support. It would be a distortion of the First Amendment to hold that it prohibits Congress from removing this mask.
And that was another recurring theme in the government's whole case. The accusation that the Uhuru 3 tried to hide its communications and cooperation with the Russian non-governmental organization.
Evidence presented by the government and the Uhuru 3's attorneys was almost all drawn from public sources such as YouTube broadcasts, newspaper publications, where the Uhuru 3's movement's interaction with Ionov and the anti-globalization movement of Russia were on full public display. So the government goes on.
Even if the court were to conclude that the governmental interests justifying the charges in the indictment relate to the defendant's free expression, the indictment would nevertheless be proper, because the governmental interests at stake are so substantial as to justify infringement on constitutional rights. It is obvious and unarguable that no governmental interest is more compelling than the security of the nation. The defendant's actions strike at the heart of American national security interests, facilitating the efforts of a hostile foreign intelligence service to manipulate debates, elections, and policy in this country. In view of the foregoing, the United States respectfully requests that the court deny the defendant's motion to dismiss.
Y'all heard it. Even if the charges infringe on free expression, the government's interest should justify infringement on constitutional rights. Wow.
Yep. So let's take another short break and go to editing manager of the Bering Spear newspaper, Soliana.
Uhuru, thank you, Talmud. So I'm going to let you know where we are towards meeting our goal during this program to get 20 new distributors of the Burning Spear newspaper. The publication of the government is spending millions of dollars to shut down. But first, we have a special offer for our viewers today. The current issue of the Burning Spear is a special issue entirely dedicated to reporting on the Uhuru 3 anti-colonial free speech trial of the century. I'm going to try to move around so you guys can see. Hopefully that's visible. We are selling individual copies of this special collectible issue of the Burning Spear for $20. You can go now and order your collectible copy of this very special issue of the Burning Spear at theburningspear.store, and we'll ship it right to you. Our chat moderators are pasting the direct link into the chat for you, so you can go ahead and visit that link to order your very own spear. So now let's take a quick look at the contents of this special issue. So the report on the Uhuru 3 anti-colonial free speech trial begins on page 3. We get our first peek at a series of sketches and cartoons drawn by Burning Spear Media volunteer artists as they themselves sat in court. So shout out Ruby and shout out Comrade Hallie. We also have page 4, which includes a couple of very short excerpts from the cross-examination of 2 key government witnesses, which you'll hear more of in episode 2 of this reenactment. So definitely stay tuned. Next up, we have page 5, which includes screenshots from videos that were actually shown in court, along with barcodes to take you to public videos posted online, so you can watch them for yourself. So we have those right here. Moving on, our inside color spread includes more courtroom sketches along with photos from the pretrial Freedom Summer outdoor rally at the Uhuru House in St. Pete, the press conference, and some group photos of supporters outside the Tampa Federal Courthouse. So we have a very beautiful inside page here. Now, when you place your order, or Actually, I'm not even done. So on pages 14 and 15, as you can see right here, you can read comments for some of the most notable activists and journalists that express direct support for the Uhuru 3. So we have activists like Cornel West, Saki Baruti, we have Marsha Adebayo, we have Mumia Abu Jamal, Jill Stein, just many organizers across the United States showing support for the Uhuru 3. So when you place your order, you're not only obtaining this special, collectible historical copy of the Burning Spear, you're supporting the right of African people to free speech, to our own agency, to be able to express our own views rooted in our own lived experiences, to tell our own Black stories and our own Black voices. So while you're doing that, I want to again salute comrades Becky and Indigo, who have each let us know that they will be ordering bundles of the Burning Spear newspaper to distribute in their communities in Ohio and Wisconsin. So shout out Midwest. I urge everyone to join them and become a Spear subscriber now at theburningspear.store. So please keep the orders coming in for bundles of Spears. And from those of you who had missed out on the October-November special issue, for your order of this very important collectible Burning Spear. So back to you, Talmadge and Mariah. Uhuru.
Thank you, Soliano. Oh, wow, what a great set of information. So we just heard excerpts from the Uhuru 3's motion to dismiss the government's prosecution response.
Yeah, and it would be a year before Judge Young issued his decision to deny the Uhuru 3's motion to dismiss. The court also denied the Uhuru 3's motion to gain access to the grand jury's transcripts, which are routinely provided to the defense in a criminal trial. The Uhuru 3's attorneys believe that a review of these transcripts would reveal disinformation presented by the government to the grand jury in order to obtain an unfounded indictment.
Meanwhile, the government tried to do an easy conviction the way they normally do, through a plea deal. The DOJ has a 99% conviction rate, usually obtained through intimidating their targets into taking a plea deal.
And the Uhuru 3 refused to take a plea, which would require them to perjure themselves by admitting to something they didn't do, and also to betray the fundamental principle of African self-determination. They decided to fight back and built an anti-colonial free speech movement with over 100 endorsing organizations across the political spectrum, US-wide speaking engagements, and public support rallies on 3 continents.
The government offered a $10 million reward to anyone with information to bolster their bogus case. They approached local politicians, political opponents of the Uhuru movement in St. Petersburg and in St. Louis, along with ex-members of the Uhuru movement, in hopes of finding a disgruntled witness willing to testify against the Uhuru 3.
A fourth defendant in the trial, himself a former Uhuru member who had been expelled from the organization, was offered a plea deal if he would testify against the Uhuru 3. He refused. In a pro forma motion filed by that fourth defendant, while acting as his own lawyer, he stated that he was beaten and tortured in jail by the government in an attempt to coerce him to testify against the Uhuru 3. All these government efforts failed, and the case went to trial.
So on Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024, the anti-colonial free speech trial of the century began. We saw respected leaders from around the U.S. representing a broad coalition throughout the spectrum coming into Tampa for the trial. They made statements in support of the at the press conference held across the street from the Tampa Federal Courthouse. Supporters filed into the overflow courtroom to observe the selection of the jury.
And because there was 80 potential jurors seated in the courtroom, only the Uhuru 3, their attorneys, and a few family members were allowed into the proceeding. Juror candidates came from 6 or 7 counties spread across Florida Federal Court Middle District.
We won't be publicizing the names or the details about the individual jurors because District Judge Jung sealed the information, but we can report that the jury selection began with introductions, each potential juror stating their name, city of residence, level of education, employment, marital status, children, employment, family members, and past military service or military or jury service. Judge Jung asked a series of questions purportedly to reveal the prejudices that might affect the jury's impartiality, assessment of testimony, or evidence in the case.
And one question he asked was if anyone had ever been engaged in social protest. One said they had protested the war in Vietnam. Another said they had protested Israeli genocide. And both of these were dismissed from serving as jurors in the Uhuru 3 case. Finally, 12 jurors and 6 alternates were selected. And they were seated in the jury box, and Judge Jung gave them his initial instructions.
We have to give you, the audience, a disclaimer at this point. And episode 2 and 3, when our actors reenact what happened in court, they'll be reading from excerpts from actual transcript provided by the court. The next exchange we want to share with you is unavailable as the court transcript, so we have reconstituted in the best of our ability from notes and memories of the Burning Spears Media's court reports. After making repeated requests to the courts for the transcript from day 1, September 3rd, we were only yesterday on November 20th, received a transcript, and it does not include Judge Jung's instruction to the jury.
But since these instructions are very important in setting the understandings and expectations for the jury, we have done our best to reconstruct the following, beginning with Judge Jung's initial instructions once the jury was seated.
Jurors, this is an important service for you to do for your country. We want to keep this country how it is and not how it turns into somewhere where we don't want to be. There are 3 rules for criminal cases. All of us are innocent unless and until the government proves its case beyond a reasonable doubt. The burden of proof is on the prosecutors. Burden of proof is significant. It must be beyond a reasonable doubt, more so in a criminal case than in a civil case. They must meet every element. There is no duty on the part of a defendant to defend oneself. The defense does not have to take the stand, and that must not be taken to reflect on them in any way. This case involves the African People's Socialist Party based in St. Petersburg, referred to as the Uhuru Group. The defendants face 2 charges: conspiracy to act among the people as agents of the Russian government or officials, knowingly acting as agents at the control or behest of foreign government or officials. This case is not about espionage. It's about acting at the behest, control, or suggestion of a foreign government or individuals, and one must inform the Attorney General.
Now listen, even if you read the law, and even if you read the prosecution's own indictment, the language is clear. The 951 statute defines an agent of a foreign government as, quote, an individual who agrees to operate within the United States subject to the direction or control of a foreign government or official, end quote. Not at the behest or suggestion of a foreign individual. This is a significant difference. Once the jury left the courtroom, Uhuru 3 attorney Mataki Akbar asked the judge to set the record straight and to instruct the jury with the accurate language of the law.
Judge June, can we clarify that it's not foreign government or individuals, it is foreign government officials?
Okay, I'll look into that.
And that is not simply at the request or suggestion or even at the behest of, is under the direction or control of a foreign government.
Noted. So it's not at the behest of. Okay.
Right.
In our next episode, we'll begin with opening arguments and then hear from the government's witnesses. And before we close our program, we want to hear from the managing editor of the Burning Spear newspaper, Soliana Bakel, once more.
Uhuru, thank you, Mariah. So, like I said earlier, we set our goal to get 20 new distributors of the Burning Spear newspaper. So far, we have only seen 2 new distributors. Comrades, we have to do better. I call on you to please organize your friends, pull your money, order your spears, and get them out into the world. We have also sold 1 individual copy of the special October-November issue, which is now a collectible featuring an illustrated report from the Uhuru 3 anti-colonial free speech trial of the century. And this was sold to Uhuru 3 member Penny Hess. I actually suspect that, the African People's Solidarity Committee chairwoman, Penny Hess, has already a copy of this and is showing her support for Burning Spear Media. So you can do that too. You can be like Penny. So go now to the Burning Spear .store and show your support. It's okay if you already have a copy. It's good to have an extra one. So I want to thank everyone who is supporting the newspaper that the government wants to silence. Once again, it's going to go ahead and show you what this looks like. Oh, this Zoom is not cooperating. But it's a beautiful cover, like I showed you guys earlier. There we go. It reads, "Not guilty of foreign agent charge. Uhuru works for Black people, not Russia." So this is very powerful, beautiful spear. I want to again thank everyone who's supporting this newspaper that the government wants to silence. And so please share and continue to grow the reach of this. Again, the oldest African liberation journal in continuous publication since the Black Power movement of the 1960s. When you own a spear, you own a piece of African history. So back to you, Mariah. Uhuru.
Thank you, Soliana. And yes, you own the spear, you own a piece of African history. And come on, y'all, give your support. Go now to that Burning Spear store and show your support. Order your bundles. Now, this concludes the first installment of Burning Spear Media's reenactment of the Uhuru 3's anti-colonial free speech trial of the century. In episode 2, we'll hear excerpts from the opening arguments in the case, and we will hear the government's presentation of evidence and witnesses, including the Uhuru 3's attorney's cross-examination. And then in the third and final episode, we'll hear closing arguments, delivery of the verdict, and Chairman Amali's response to the verdict. Spoiler alert, the Uhuru 3 were found not guilty of acting as agents of the Russian government. In a contradictory and unjust verdict, they were found guilty of conspiring to act as an agent of the Russian government. They will return to the Tampa Federal Courthouse on December 16th for their sentencing hearing. The government plans to lock up 83-year-old Chairman Amali, Penny Hess, and Jesse Neville for 5 years and to fine them $250,000. We say not 1 day in prison. All freedom-loving people are encouraged to attend the sentencing hearing to show your support for the Uhuru 3. You can be part of history. Come on, learn more at www.handsoffuhuru.org.
We also invite everyone to join Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition this Saturday, November 23rd at 3 p.m. Eastern Time in a special online program entitled On Thanksgiving, Victory to African and Indigenous People, featuring revolutionary author Ward Churchill, Chairman Amali Yusitela, and others discussing the colonial reality of genocide and the November holiday and why we must free the Uhuru 3. We want to thank you all for joining us. Please share the link. Subscribe to the Burning Spear TV channel on YouTube and spread the word. Uhuru, it means freedom.
Uhuru.
Wow. Let's give another hand. Thank you, comrades, and I'm so happy you were here to witness and be to watch this. Okay. Now, before we move on, I want to give each and every one of you a chance to be a part of this movement. And today we are calling for membership and resources. Our resource goal is $100, and our membership goal is anybody that is not already a part of the movement. Okay. Membership. Okay, for resources, if there's somebody that wants to already donate $100, then I can move on. But if not, just hold your hand up. Okay, $50, $25, $20. Okay, Uhuru. $10. Okay, $5. $3. Any dollar amount that you are willing to put towards revolution is a dollar closer to freedom, liberation for African people and all indigenous people. So, comrade, if you want to donate online, you can go to Cash App, $InPDUM, or you can go to InPDUM.org/donate. And if you go to those, would you please let me know? Put your hand up and let me know. I'll come by and ask you how much. Okay. All right, come back. I'll come back later and give you the total amount we feel. Now for membership, InPDUM membership, to be a member of InPDUM is being on the ground, and whatever level you come into the membership is the level that is the same. You got the same rights, your ideas are important, your input, your energy, your resources, whatever you can give to help fight for freedom is what membership means. When you want to be a part of something where your ideas matter, your voice carries, and every voice we can get, a person can sing a solo, but it takes more than one person to be a choir. The power makes a whole difference in the delivery. The membership is George Jackson. If you're behind, if you're being held in the state, it is a $5. It's a $10 membership. That's the Musa Bansi level. That's $10 a year for somebody you may know that you want to get the word to on what's happening here outside with the Uhuru movement. George Jackson and Jesse Woods level is annual membership for the incarcerated members. Musa Bansu level is for unemployment and students. That's for a year. For right now, InPDUM is having an annual general level. It's usually $25 a year. But right now, a special time, it is a level at $10 for the first year. That's $10 a year, and you have the rights and standards and everything that's needed to be an active person moving into revolution. Okay? Anybody want to be a member? If you're not already, just keep it in mind. We're always available. Now, we're going to question and answers. I would like to ask Chairman O'Malley, Comrade Penny, anyone out there, if you'd like to have something to say, Chairman, question and answer. You have a question? I'm sure Chairman can answer it. Any questions?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, you have to come up to the mic.
This building, I saw a larger building, maybe about quarter mile from here. Yes. Gonna be what? The big building. It's talking about the building that they.
On Warren.
Yeah.
And West Florissant.
Yes. What is it going to be? I mean, and then how much money would it cost to renovate?
You know what? Those are questions that I can't answer because I'm not, it's not my expertise. But the future of that building is just as important as all of our buildings, and we build for the community. Whatever it is, whatever it ends up being developed into It will be something for the community because the whole corridor is to uplift the North St. Louis community.
Understand.
So,
Appreciate it.
the making of that building and what's gonna be in it, I don't know if it's been decided exactly yet, but I tell you what, it will be for the community. Chairman, would you like to speak on that?
Only thing I would say, I think you're right on time, your response, but depending on how we build these meetings, this should be too small. That's a large building. It's a large space, neat place to meet. It's got room for something like 10 offices that's there. So depending on how we move here, and which is really important, and bring our community and people into this, this room should be too small. And we need to be in, so that's one thing that we sort of floated out as a possibility, depending on how things develop here. The other things that's being planned for the strip, that includes a center for women's health center. That's part of what's been discussed, and we have initiated a process of raising money to construct from the bottom up with that. But there are a lot of things. We're actually, engaged in a process to rehabilitate, like our community. It's one of the reasons we think the government has attacked us, because of what we're doing in terms of actually practically independently rehabilitating our community, rebuilding our community. And we think that's one of the reasons. We attack Darby for that. They attack virtually every movement we've ever created that's tried to build independently for our people. So that's about what I can say right now. Well, along that same line, so if they're gonna check you for doing something positive, or actually to cut this short.
Yeah.
Does it make it easier?
Well, you won't get a debate. You won't get a debate on that. I mean, I think the question provides the answer.
Any more questions?
Because I think that it was an important thing. It gave us access, some access to what happened at the trial. And so people may have some views or some questions or some opinions even about what was just shown in terms of that video. I thought it was great. And I thought it did serve to help people get a sense of what happened. It looked like they gave me a shot of Botox and a hair transplant. But I thought it was good. And I thought it was really important that people could see that and then get a sense. And what was, I think, even better, we used the state's voice. We used what they said. We didn't hide from what they said, what they charged, how they tried to refute our arguments. Say, here they are. Here are their arguments. Here's what we said. And I think that's really, really important. We want the people to be able to judge this. They took 12 people who they misled and said, this is the opinion of your peers. What we're saying, we want our peers to really see it, because that 12 people, those were not our peers as such. But there's a whole world that's out here that needs to see this, and more people saw it than they intended to see it, even there, because we had the courthouse filled every day. They gave us the largest courtroom they had, and then they did so suggesting that this was going to be for just a day or two because people are not going to come the next day, but people came every day. And so we said that there are 600 more than 1,600 letters, at least 500 for each of us individually. That's many, many, many times more than the 12 people who shot in that courtroom in town. And that's our objective, so the world to see it and then be able to make a judgment of who is on the right side of history, whether we are, whether a system that's committing all this oppression and genocide around the world and trying to hold on to what it has taken from the people, whether it's on the right side of it.
So hopefully people will have some observations about the families.
I have an observation about the film. I thought it was amazing. It was informative and it was in a language a kid can understand. They may not understand all the legal words that the state claim, but they understand the fact that when it's time to go to the bathroom, it's time to flush it. And now it's time to flush what they said. Okay? Anybody else have something they want to say? But I tell you, part 2 and part 3 will bring it all together so you can see the whole picture and know why they lied and we won. We told the truth and we won. They lied and lost. We told the truth and won. Okay. Uhuru. I would like to bring Lynn up to speak for a moment. Uhuru.
Right. Uhuru, everybody. So my name is Len, and I'm the local chair here for the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, an organization that was created by the African People's Socialist Party and works under their leadership. We organize in the white community, raise reparations that goes towards building African self-determination, including these amazing programs that you see, here on West Florissant. I want to let everybody know about the upcoming 24-hour reparations telethon. This is the 6th annual telethon that we are having for Giving Tuesday, which is an annual day of giving to nonprofits in the US. And for Giving Tuesday, what we do is, it is a packed 24-hour program, a celebration of African culture, music, poets, pies, and we're going to hear from revolutionary speakers, including Chairman Omali Yeshitela, the Uhuru 3, and a bunch of other speakers. It's going to be a really amazing program. And this year we have a goal to raise $35,000 that will go towards the programs of the African People's Education and Defense Fund at Black Star Industries. So we want everyone to come out to the telethon, and it will be held live in South St. Louis City at the Uhuru Solidarity Center, which is a building owned by the African People's Socialist Party. And yeah, everybody come on out. We're going to be there from 7 a.m. on December 3rd, which is Tuesday, all the way until 7 a.m. December 4th on Wednesday. We're going to be there all day, all night, and we would love for you to come and check out the space. It's a beautiful place to be on the south side with this, big Unity Through Reparations banner on the front of the building. You can't miss it. And it's going to be an amazing program. Everybody come out, and you can register at tinyurl.com/reparationstelethon 2024. And we hope to see you all there. You can pick up a flyer on your way out, or let me know if you have any questions. I would be happy to answer them. Uhuru.
And now, you got that telethon is magnificent. That's all I gotta say. It's magnificent. Comrade Tiali. Uhuru.
It is. We need people to volunteer. We got the rest of this week to push these pies out. You can order your pies today, and I think Monday is the cutoff. Tomorrow's the cutoff for ordering pies. So you might want to come to the back table there and order. And we're going to be at the Solidarity Center. We'll have a table there from Tuesday and Wednesday. It's November 26th and 27th. That's going to be from 11 to 4 p.m. And also we'll be here Tuesday and Wednesday from 11 to 4. And then we're going to be having a pop-up at Northwest Coffee Roasters over on the Cleve. And that's going to be happening on Thanksgiving morning from 9 to 2 p.m. So I just want to let you know about that. And in the next slide. All right, what you can do is continue making the calls to or email the mayor, Jones, the man that should resolve the issue immediately around the Bakery Cafe. And also, we want you to call Post Dispatch and demand a retraction or fire their so-called reporter Jacob Barker. And just to say, you know, we've been talking about this whole struggle around Bakery Cafe for months now, and we are, you know, and we want the city to really, you know, feel the pain. You know, they've told APDF that they must appeal this decision to the Board of Adjustment in February of 2025, and then for the St. Louis Dispatch put it in an attack piece on APDF and the chairman and the African community. So we're demanding a retraction from the Post Dispatch to fire the author, Jacob Barker, and we are demanding the mayor take action now so that no appeal hearing is necessary. We've been going through this at least 6 months or so, trying to get the Bakery Cafe open, and you know, they thought they weren't just going to fight. They're really going to have to get you see this one, because you're not going to stop. And on the next slide, and see, order your prize. You use the QR code. You can go to the website, uhuruprize.org. You can order your prize now, and I do believe that tomorrow, I would say tomorrow morning before noon, make that order. We can get your orders baked, and again, Tuesday and Wednesday here and at the Uhuru Solidarity Center, from 11 to 4 p.m. You can pick up your pies. And I know we already have some orders that have come through, so we're going to be working to bake those orders. And again, all of this is to forward economic work benefiting the African community, not just to put some money in our pockets or some crap like that, you know. I mean, people do need to make money, but this is about Black power. How else can you say it? So that's my announcements.
Uhuru. And Uhuru, I would like to bring up Comrade Sophia Moore. I'm here to bring one up, Comrade.
Hello, everyone. I just want to go over a few announcements with you today. The first is being Monday, December 16th, we want to pack the courthouse for the sentencing hearing. It'll be in Tampa, Florida, at the Tampa Division Courthouse at 801 4th Florida Avenue in Tampa, Florida, with a zip code of 33602. You can go to handsoffuhuru.org if you want to sign up for alerts or to sign up to show that you're coming. So we want to make sure that we have enough people to show that those that are defending themselves against this attack have the support of the people. So the more people we have there, the more it shows the American government that people are in alignment with the message that's being sent here. So make sure if you can come out. If not, you just want to try to get the information out to everybody that you can, just to bring awareness to this situation, have talks about it amongst your groups and things like that, to kind of, you know, get a feel of how, you know, get the message out to people and get a feel of what people think about the things that they continue to do to our community. The next thing is the Burning Spear. You want to support the organization by ordering your Burning Spear. And you can do that by going to theburningspear.com/subscribe. And that way you can stay up to date with all of the things that the organization has been fighting for, the things that are taking place within the organization. And because a lot of times you don't know really where to go to get your political education. So if you get the Burning Spear, you can get your information from there. And then finally, we need your help to build the Sunday rallies. That's the meetings where we come here and gather each week to get in our discussions. You have an opportunity to ask your questions about the things that are affecting your life, the things that you would like to see happen, and just give your input. So if you can, we need you to come out, support these rallies to make them bigger and better so that we can begin to laser focus. We can try to do as much as we can with knowing what our community needs, but we need the people here in order to express their concerns about what they need so we can really focus on those areas of concern. Areas that you can be a part of, you can join the team of outreach where you reach out to other people to let them know about our rallies. We need people that are security to, secure the doors, make sure everyone feels safe and is safe. We need help because after each meeting, we sit down and fellowship over a care meeting. So we need people who can cook, bring food, or participate in different areas like that. Even just serving food if you don't want to cook. We need people that help with audio visual, just like now you're able to watch this from wherever you are. And then, so people who can assist with that, so that we can kind of get more into that, and then we can use other people for other things. And then just bring your skills for whatever you have, whatever you're able to do, you can come out and be a part of it. That's part of, like they talked about getting your membership. It's a very inexpensive, what is it, $5 or $25 for a whole year? See if it's an organization that you want to be a part of and give your support. So that you can say, and you can look at your children and say that you've done something for your community.
Right.
So, and that is it for my announcements, and I'll let Fofi come back and close this out.
Thank you. Sophia is a new member. You wouldn't get that from what she just said. She's a new member. And anybody can grow in this community, in this organization, to be the best sons and daughters of Africa you can be. So far, I told cash wise is $75. $85. Anybody else go online to donate? So we're gonna end up saying doing 100 because I'll fill in the rest. We made our goal, comrade. Our Sunday rallies are spectacular. And who comes or who don't come, it's the spot is always filled. And that's the way the Uhuru movement is. We always fill the spot with spectacular programs, spectacular movement, events, whatever we do, it is always on the top. Okay? So with that being said, Chairman, would you like to say anything to carry us out?
You said it. Yeah.
I had a good teacher. I have a good teacher because I'm still learning. And caribou today is soup, comrades. We got vegetable soup. We've got 7-bean, 15-bean soup. And we got all the other little things to go with it. And I want to thank everybody that brought something. Because when you bring something, it makes what we have more. And the more we have, the better it tastes. All right. Uhuru, comrades, until next week. Uhuru, we are winning it.
Uhuru.